We can get there.
It'll take some work.
Let's make it happen.
We never know exactly what the future holds, but at Wilson Bank and Trust, part of our mission is helping you meet your goals, and that's a big part of our service to Middle Tennessee. Let's get together and find the solutions that can get you and your family on the road to a bright future and some of the uncertain times out of your tomorrows.
Thank you, Wilson Bank.
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 Thank you, Wilson Bank. Thank you, Wilson Bank.
Hello, and welcome to the Power of 10 Forum Series hosted by Cumberland Region Tomorrow. I'm Margot Fosnes, Chairman of the Board of Cumberland Region Tomorrow, and I'm your moderator for today's forum. Cumberland Region Tomorrow was founded to be a space for discussion and collaboration on growth and development issues in Middle Tennessee. We want to ensure that the communities across our region are vibrant, prosperous places that offer all residents the high quality of life that has inspired so many individuals and businesses to call this place home. Through events like the Power of 10, and what we hope will be a continuation of these panels and forums, we want to engage you in identifying the critical issues that face our region as we continue to grow, and in formulating strategies that we should be undertaking to help preserve the qualities that make Middle Tennessee special. Before we begin, let's take a look at your dashboard and its features. On the right side of your screen, you will find the chat and Q&A tabs. Near the end of the broadcast, we will have our panelists answer questions submitted during the show. If you have an interest in a question already entered, click the upvote button. This will make it rise in priority. You can view the broadcast in full screen mode by closing the chat and Q&A by clicking in the down arrow in the upper right-hand corner of each feature. You can reopen them if you elect to use them later in the broadcast by clicking the chat icon, and it will open all features. Now that you understand how the platform works, let's begin. Our first order of business is to thank our sponsors, without whom we could not provide these events. First, our presenting sponsor for the Power of 10 series is Pinnacle Financial Partners. We extend our deep appreciation for their participation in this event. Our host sponsor for today's forum is Wilson Bank and Trust. I'm pleased to welcome John McDearman, a former CRT board member and current CEO of Wilson Bank and Trust, to share a little bit about their organization.
Thanks, Margot. Great to see you. And on behalf of Wilson Bank and Trust, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for being a part of today's forum. As a company, one of our greatest strengths is our community-centric approach to the people and communities in Middle Tennessee. And Wilson Bank has been a longtime supporter of CRT and the Power of 10 and its mission really to build consensus around creating sustainable growth in our region. And so it's been a huge part. I always see our volunteers and the people involved as really being a real catalyst. You know, Helen Keller once said the only thing being worse than being blind is having no vision. And thanks to our panelists and all of you today for investing your time to help the region continue to focus on our vision, and specifically today, the success of our Main Street business. Thank you, Margot.
Thank you. Thank you, John. We have a great panel with us today to discuss our topic, Main Street Economy Surviving the Pandemic. We welcome Anthony Davis, owner of East Nashville Beerworks and former Nashville Metro Council member, Dr. Lorneth Peters, director of the Tennessee Small Business Development Center at Austin Peay State University, and Nancy Williams, director of Tennessee Main Streets with the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us today. This topic is kind of near and dear to my heart, in particular because my day job is as the Economic Development Officer for Robertson County, Tennessee. So I'm working not only with our large employers and industries, but in working with our small Main Street businesses and trying to help bring them to our communities and to helping them succeed. It's no secret that COVID-19 has changed everything about the way retail, restaurant, and entertainment venues operate. And in many cases, it's closed them down for a period of time. For some, this has been a death blow. For many, We are seeing amazing resilience and adaptability that is allowing them to survive and even thrive in this new environment. To catch you up on the ideas that Brent Todderin, our Power of 10 keynote speaker, shared with us in August, here's a short clip from his remarks.
As we're thinking about how we're building the permanent city, there's a lot of simple ideas for temporary fixes that could strengthen our cities, but it's remarkable how hard we make those simple ideas. And that was true before the pandemic. It's less true now. It's amazing how the pandemic has changed our willingness to make quick, simple changes. And I'll talk about that. So these were images actually that I used before the pandemic. My clients in Santiago, Chile, transforming parking spaces literally overnight for new public space. My clients in Auckland transforming their parking space along their waterfront as a catalyst for the redevelopment of the waterfront by literally overnight putting in planters, paint, and seating. Super easy, and people were using it the next day. We all know, I think, about the parklet movement, the idea of transforming our parking spaces. Boy, has this been an important and powerful issue during the pandemic. It was an issue before, but it never got as much attention. Don't underestimate the importance of food trucks as a way of filling the gaps and holes in our urban condition with urban life. And I also love containers. This is New York and Halifax and Oslo and Copenhagen. And my favorite example, Christchurch, New Zealand, who used containers to fill space after the devastating earthquake that knocked out 80% of their building stock. We think we have challenges. Boy, Christchurch had struggles. And they used container urbanism to help bring life back and fill the gaps. And other cities were inspired by that. So when we talk about the pandemic, I don't like the word opportunity because it sounds crass, but what we have to see this as is a responsibility to address those pre-existing conditions we had and transform our cities. Because if not now, during this time, not opportunity, then when? This is an interview I did for Vox about how to make the cities both livable during the lockdown and after the lockdown. Feel free to read that. Cities all over the world are doing big things from a parks perspective, an open space perspective, as big issues and visions as Madrid wanting to create a 74-kilometer forest belt around the city for bike paths, play areas, diversity corridors, and just to cool and clean the air of the city. Big visions, and every other scale of park and public space being addressed by cities right now, particularly European cities, because not only does it address the pandemic, it addresses quality of life, air pollution, economic success, attracting millennials. It ticks every box to invest in open space and public space for better cities. And rethinking our streets as a fundamental, the most common public space we actually have in our city, particularly now that we have to physically distance or during this pandemic.
All right. So let's start the discussion by hearing from Anthony Davis about what he and his peers experienced in 2020. Anthony?
Thank you so much, Margot. Appreciate you having me today. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Anthony Davis, I'm with East Nashville Beerworks. If you haven't heard of it, we're a small local brewery, tap room oriented brewery here in East Nashville on Trinity Lane. And as mentioned in the bio, was once in a former life Metro Council member for 8 years, but now just have my day job. So wanted to get into, sort of how the pandemic affected us. Of course, as all of you know, restaurants, retail, breweries, distilleries, all of our type of business were hit extremely hard. I know everyone was, but certainly when your business is almost shut down overnight, your industry was almost shut down overnight, you were hit one of the hardest, I would imagine. But from our perspective at the brewery, right off the bat was the initial shock. I was actually on spring break. It was around March 15th when get a phone call and my phone starts blowing up that the mayor was shutting down basically everything due to the pandemic really hitting our stores. And so ended up going through a spring break, but had to, immediately figure out how we were going to operate and function as a business. It was a very weird week that we woke up and we were basically closed. All the bars came to a grinding halt, which we depend on the keg sales. When you're a brewery, you sell the kegs to the bars, to the distributors' bars, as a big part of our revenue. And then, of course, our tap room. We're a very tap room driven brewery where we sell direct to the customer beer and food and that sort of thing. And we sell the experience. And you'll see some of the photos scrolling through as I'm talking here of just our vibe and our setup and some of the pandemic experiences we're talking about today. So for us, it was an immediate pivot. We had beers in the tanks. We had tanks full of beer. So we sit there scratching our heads, going, what do we do? Now what do we do? We've got a lot of beer here and no one wants to buy it. So our first pivot was to push all the beer that was in the tanks into cans. We already were canning, thankfully. We weren't small enough where we weren't canning. There's a few shots there. So we started canning some of our more interesting beers. That's a double IPA. We released an Italian Pilsner. Our flagship is a Honey Blonde, and we do an American Wheat. And we have a couple beers that we do as our core beers year round. But we started canning everything so that at least a portion of the batch, if not all of it, was basically going into cans because we knew we wouldn't be opening the tap room. We knew the bars were not wanting any kegs. Had several conversations with the distributor. They had, thankfully not too much beer over at the distributor house, so they could sort of trickle through it with restaurants or things that were still open, but they didn't want any beer in kegs. So we went to the cans and the package. The tap room, that took a few weeks to get going again, but once we were able to figure out what our pivot was, we went to what I call the Pizza Hut model because we are a food brewery and we do pizza. We basically said we're going to just start delivering stuff. So I had my sales guy who would normally be out selling bars start taking the pizza. We started taking orders. He would take the pizza and the beer and bring it to your house for all of East Nashville. Then we would sell online. The guy in the red shirt there, we would also, thanks to the beer board, they allowed us to pivot and sell beer at our online store. And we did that countywide. So you could order beer in Donaldson or in Antioch, and we would bring you the beer. That was beer only. We couldn't really figure out the Pizza Hut. The Pizza Hut model is mainly your local kind of model. But for just beer delivery, we did it next day, sometimes same day, but mostly next day, anywhere in the county. And really big kudos, Benton McDonough and the beer board here locally. They helped everybody in our industry sort of figure out how to pivot, but being able to deliver beer countywide was huge for us. Also, Postmates, Uber, those kind of groups became a little more pivotal. We basically got a trickle of those every month normally, and those became a lot more essential to us as people were ordering more on the apps like Uber Eats and Postmates. So that was the early pivot. Jumping forward a little bit, April and May were just absolutely savage, just bloody losses for the company. I'm sure many restaurants didn't have any sales. We were fortunate to get something going. I was doing everything I could just to keep the people working. We decided not to lay everyone off. So in the midst of this, I was applying for the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP loans. I'm sure you've had discussions on that in these forums, but one of your sponsors there, your lead sponsor, or one of the sponsors, Pinnacle, was instrumental in me getting my loan from the PPP, and I will never forget it. It was just absolutely vital to staying alive. Shout out to Beth Deering, who's a vice president there. She's wonderful, and she helped me navigate the whole thing. I was trying to get, being in politics, I would get in touch with Congressman Cooper's office and was just kind of trying to stay on it during that whole process. So I was an early one to apply, and I know it was probably more challenging for some folks, but I figured out how to get on. I knew we just had to have it, and Pinnacle was really helpful and helped us get it. So, but April, May, we didn't have it yet, and it was extremely hard. Sales were down. We had actually just staffed up to go into 2020 thinking we're going to grow. Laughable as that is now, we're all excited about growing in 2020 because we had a really good 2019 and a good third year, but it just wasn't in the cards for us. So 2020 became the year of survival. So April and May, very bad, but we did get the loan. We did get the grant from Pinnacle. And mid-May, we were finally able to push towards opening our beer garden again. And if you've got any of those slides, you may want to scroll through. That's when we really started to figure out that next level of pivot. We're one of the few breweries that, one, that does food, but two, has this awesome outdoor space. And you can see kind of our beer garden there. And we, for a couple months, we had nothing going, and our business was cut by over 2/3. And so finally, mid-May, we're able to sort of awaken a little bit and get outside going. We decided to open up outside only restaurants. We're able, if you remember, in that phase, and there's been so many phases, but restaurants were able to open at 50% capacity indoors. We decided it would just be safer at first to open up outside only. It was warm. We thought, we've got the great space. Let's do outside only at first. Keep the staff safe, keep the customer safe as possible. There were so many unknowns. Cases were up and down. So we went outside only. But we're very fortunate that we had that space. We did still have to get it set up, thinking, in this pandemic times, and I know that, of course, the point of this panel, how did you navigate it? We spread everything out. Again, outside only, we just spread it out so that customers would feel as comfortable as possible. At that time, I was barely meeting with family, but what I would do is I would meet with a family member or a friend, and I would sit in a lawn chair 10 feet apart, outdoors only, and have a beer. And I knew I felt comfortable. So I said, that's what we're going to do at the brewery. We're going to make everyone feel as comfortable as you would with your own group. We're going to spread everything out. And with the free flowing air, everything was, at that point, was leaning towards, that open, spacious air would help keep things safe. So that's what we did. We spread the tables, we set it up, and we finally got outside going. We even have an outdoor service window. You could have your whole experience outside. You could order the beer from outside. You could go sit. The only thing you had to come in and do was use the restroom. So we didn't do a porta john or anything like that. There's the service window on the right there. Was very important. So it was normally, we had that because a lot of people come with their dogs, and we're known for kids and dogs and that sort of thing. We're just that kind of brewery. And so we became like a COVID friendly brewery because you could have your whole experience outside. You could even order your beer outside. So, and we're still using that today. So we've got, being that way, outdoor food, we're able to get open. We're known for our pizza. So we were probably open a little bit earlier than some breweries in the phased opening because of the food element. We were a restaurant, so we could open. So then resurgence of cases sort of hit. I think the next step in the summer was the resurgence of cases. Of course, we know there was all the summer activities and parties, lack of a federal strategy, throw that in there. We just had a resurgence of cases in the summer, and boom, we're scared again. We think everything's coming back. We think, oh gosh, this is just going to get even worse than the first round. And everybody's just freaking out. The staff is freaking out. Everyone's scared again. Metro started to roll back. If you remember, they went, I do think we jumped into phase 3 a little early. We had to roll back into the modified phase 2 at that point. Everything was looking grim again. But because we were beer garden only, and because we had the food, during that time, we actually didn't change anything. We called ourselves still in phase 1. So that because we hadn't opened the indoors yet, we could have opened the indoors, but we didn't. So, as the summer went on, thankfully it started dipping back down again in cases. But we had a great August. We had sales-wise just a record August. When normally August is so hot, our sales take a little dip from the rest of the summer. So I attribute that to what I think happened was people sort of came to know us as being a safe place. They knew they could come experience and have a beer and have some pizza and be outside and enjoy it like they were out at a restaurant or out at a brewery and not feel unsafe. So our sales grew in August, and we were just thrilled that even with that resurgence in July, especially, and even into early August, we really had a great August. So continuing to move forward, the cases started to go back down again, thank goodness. Public health was coming back a little bit. As we know, we're down to about 1,000 active here in Davidson, even dipped below that recently. So we pushed towards opening the inside. I knew for the fall and winter, we had to do something. We had to make a plan because it's cold and people don't want to necessarily hang out outside. I think people are going to be a little more tolerant this year, but we had to make a plan for winter. So on the 15th of September, we opened the doors. And what our plan has consisted of is keeping the garage doors that we have open at all times with the air coming through and fans going out. And you can see a little bit there. That's the front window on the left there. We're going to keep that garage door open. Then we have two in the back of the main tap room. And even when it gets colder, we're going to do sort of the plastic sheeting on the deck, heat it up on the deck, but still keep the doors open. So that way, because it's just all about open and fresh air. And of course, people wearing masks, and Davidson County requiring masks, and but we know they're going to take them off when they get to their table. They have to drink their beer, eat their food. So we know what we are as far as a risk category. And so we make sure everyone keeps a mask on when they're up and about. They get back to their table. With the open air, we feel it's not stuffy. It's not going to be like those things you've heard of where there's a lot of transmission because of the lack of air. We would just refuse to be that kind of place. So we're making every plan to figure out keeping those doors open, both figuratively and literally keeping the doors open where the air is flowing. So we're having to get creative for winter. We're keeping the doors open. We're doing the heaters. We might do a tent out back. We're getting creative. We're still going to be canning those specialty beers and pushing those out to market. We're never looking back from that. That's something that, similar to your video, we're not going to change. We think it's really cool. Look at all those specialty beers we got lined up. We were really doing like 2 to 3 cans before, and now we are keeping up with our couple cans of core beer, and we're releasing a lot of fun specialty stuff. Gets people excited. It gets some stuff in cans and a package that wasn't there before that you could only get on draft with keg sales. And we're pushing those out to market, and we're driving traffic to the tap room so people can come get those. We're hoping for not a big resurgence into the winter, of course, for health reasons and obviously for business reasons. And maybe there'll be a second round of PPP too. We certainly will apply. We're actually going to get a grant from the state ag department. Revenue gave us a little bit. There's been some really tremendous help from the state. I know, I think Nancy's going to talk about that later, but the state has been pivotal for us as well, between that and then the federal government with the PPP. So just kind of in summary, we're pressing forward. We're hoping for great public health outcomes. We're hoping for eventual real growth with our company. We know it'll get here. We're still in survival mode, but we're pushing forward with everything we got. We're making ends meet. We're keeping our people. We're going to survive this winter. I'm very confident of that, finally, that we're going to survive. And we'll just press forward and do the best we can. And look forward to your questions. Anyone else in the hospitality and restaurant business, I support you. I salute you. I know it's really hard right now, and you just have to make do with what you got and keep pressing forward. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today. I'm so excited to be here. Anthony, wow, you inspired me. What a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm calling a lot of our businesses history makers because you're making history. As mentioned, I'm the director of the Small Business Development Center in Clarksville, Tennessee. We're located on the campus of Austin Peay. And throughout COVID, we've had the opportunity to assist over 500 clients, entrepreneurs and small business owners. And we're just happy to be on this ride with them. I say we do 3 things well. We listen, we educate, and we connect businesses to resources in the community. And that's what we're doing. I was asked briefly to kind of provide 3 success stories of businesses in our community that have done a great job pivoting. So we'll be doing that briefly, just touching on each of those businesses. They're all from different industries, and I just wanted to kind of highlight them. So the first business we have, I'd like to highlight, is Armored Trucking Academy. It's a commercial truck driving academy, and this business is so unique because they were supposed to open the day that the safer at home restrictions were implemented. Can you imagine that? A business you've been working on for years, months, all of a sudden you can't open. So he had to find a way to pivot without bringing in revenue. He had 5 employees that he still wanted to keep hired, and he had to find new ways to keep them engaged while waiting to actually open his doors. And for each of these businesses, I reached out to them just to get their input as I present on their business. And these are some things that he mentioned to me. He said the time that we spent not open is the reason that we are now successful. He understood, of course, there's a shortage in the trucking industry. They said back in 2018, it was like 60,000 in the trucking industry. There was just a lack of 60,000 drivers in that industry in 2018. And this year, of course, it's gone up. So he wanted to open a business to ensure that he's preparing truck drivers to fill that need. And he could not do that because of COVID-19. So throughout the time that he was closed, he spent some time learning more about the business. Although he's worked in the business, he never owned his business. So he spent some time educating himself, educating his employees, and also being a consultant. And that kind of helped them get through that hump. Currently, he has been able to graduate over 40 truck drivers, and they all have jobs. They had jobs even before they completed his program. And it's because of the need that we have right now. I always say truck drivers are keeping us alive. They're clothing us, they're keeping us fed. So he went into a great industry. And although it started off slow, now he's picking up. He's able to have more individuals in his classes and continue to grow his business. Second, I want to talk about Fat Boy Tacos. In the clip we watched at the beginning, the presenter talked about food trucks and the difference they can be making during COVID-19. And Fat Boy Tacos, they're doing that. Their revenue has increased. They said it's tripled, actually. And it sounds great to have your revenue triple, but when you're not prepared, it's not as great. So we talked about ways they had to pivot what they offered. First of all, there was a decrease in, as you know, we had a food shortage. So they had to find other ways to kind of change around their menu and find innovative ways to implement new, to add new ingredients to what they offered in the past. And they've been doing that, and their business just continues to grow. They mentioned making sure you humanize your business throughout COVID-19, being honest with your clients and staying positive is 3 of the reasons why they're still successful and they're making it through COVID. Third but not least, I would like to mention Madeleine's, which is a French bakery. This business has been around for about 3 years, so they were hitting their mark. During, as many businesses know, around the 3rd through the 5th year, that's when they start seeing an increase. They're more stabilized. And at this point, they were not stabilized because of COVID-19, and they had to close. And when they reopened, foot traffic was lowered. They're down in the main, the downtown district, and their foot traffic was little to none, and they had to find a way once again to pivot. So I sat with them and we talked about things they've done in the past, what they can do differently, and 2 things they implemented. And I know Anthony touched on this. That is having getting involved with the food delivery service, something they never did in the past, and also offering a French night, French dinner night. This is something they did one time before, but there were so many people interested in what they were doing. So I said, capitalize on your uniqueness. There's no one else in our community offering French meals or offering what you offer. So capitalize on that. And because they've done that, they've been able to kind of I don't want to say substitute their revenue, but find other streams of income as they navigate COVID-19. So those are the 3 businesses I've had the opportunity to work with and continue to work with as they focus on pivoting and actually living in this new normal.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Peters. They're lucky to have you in the Clarksville area. And I know that your Tennessee Small Business Development Center is also servicing Robertson County and I think Cheatham County as well. Finally, Nancy Williams, what kind of tools does Tennessee Main Streets have available for navigating these times?
Thanks for letting me come on and talk about Tennessee main streets and downtowns and just all kinds of things we have going on at the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. So over the past year, we have been surveying communities across the state about what they want from their main streets and their downtowns. And we've heard a lot, and we started before the pandemic and continued on throughout it. And what I found was that people were just feeling more connected to their traditional downtown districts, more interested in interacting with them, and more wanting them to succeed. So we're all really invested in these historic commercial cores. So we ended up surveying about 10,000 people across the state, and we found that they love these places for being historic and friendly and charming and clean and safe and beautiful and offering a sense of community, being walkable, unique, being home. And these are collected from across the state, but we did this in Murfreesboro, Franklin, Gallatin, Lebanon, Columbia, Mount Pleasant. So, but we found pretty much, the same across Tennessee, how much people love. And we have 35 nationally accredited main streets in Tennessee. About 12 of them are here in Middle Tennessee. But then we ask them, what businesses do you want in your downtown going forward? And it's a little different in Middle Tennessee. We just pulled this out. Number one, pub restaurant. And number two, it came as kind of a surprise, is a bookstore. People want bookstores again, and I think they're looking for an interactive bookstore. They want to be with their tribe of readers and connect. And number three, entertainment. And in East Tennessee, entertainment was number one. They want more music, more venues. But it was number three in Middle. And number four, fine dining. Next, coffee shops, bakeries. Number six, breweries. And seven, arts and crafts, both like retail and opportunities to be hands-on in arts and crafts. And so obviously the theme there is, just a lot of dining and drinking and interacting with the community. But I think when you have these things in place, that creates just a really healthy retail environment too. We also ask in Middle Tennessee, do they still have local laws, local ordinances that are obstacles to these things? Because it has been in the past in smaller communities. And in Middle Tennessee, it was overwhelmingly no. Those barriers are kind of gone. Still had a few in West Tennessee to work through, but I think that was encouraging that we're kind of teed up to be able to offer all these amenities in Middle Tennessee. So then, as we got into COVID, we have had our Main Street organizations. Most of them are 501c3 organizations, and they have, I think, just been so essential to helping us change and adapt to the way we have to live now. We were working with Tullahoma as a Tennessee downtown, and we were doing some branding and marketing with them through that program. Came up with a really cool new kind of mid-century modern space kind of logo for them, and they had their main drag there just looking really, really good. And when they actually do have some really good restaurant pubs in that downtown, but one really large one there, London's, was just shut down. But like Anthony said, I mean, it was just really going to hit them hard. And through this partnership with the city, the local officials, their downtown group, they were able to very quickly create this really nice outdoor space They closed an alley with some removable bollards, and I include a little picture of those there. And I think they must have built that fence out of some pallets from Jack Daniels or George Dickel or somewhere, because that went up in no time. And you can see it's picnic tables and plants, and created a beautiful venue. There it is at night. And, you know, at ECD and also in tourism, in Tennessee tourism, we spend a lot of money on stages, and it's like, oh, look, it looks like they put down a rug and created a great stage there. And it's really kept that place going. Like Anthony, I'm a little worried about what winter's going to bring for us. So I think we need to be thinking about that now. But we have just seen these creative solutions in all of our communities. And I think that's one thing downtown can really offer. Then we just have the collective promotional efforts across Tennessee. And I think our main streets are really killing it in this area. They have all lost tremendous amounts of money, because these tend to be the organizations that are doing these festivals and events and tastings and all these things. A lot of those big public gatherings have been canceled, and but they have adapted and they're finding new things. So we, on the state level, are trying to help these organizations stay in business, to keep serving the businesses. So that's a major focus right now. And I just wanted to share some resources we have at ECD. We have on our website at tn.gov/ECD, we have the Tennessee Placemakers Entrepreneurship Fund. And we've collected sources of, we've got urban money in there and rural money and federal money. And so we just are trying to make it easy for people to access it. And you can go on that website and it's like a 1.5 page application. And then we, on the back end, try to figure out how to fund your project. Now, this is not for individual businesses. This would be for collaborative efforts. But we have awarded chambers and main streets and all kinds of economic development organizations. We did early on. We did a lot of co-working spaces in some kind of big vacant downtown buildings. Now we might have to go back and put some partitions in there. That'll be fine. But I see a lot of interest in really small, affordable office spaces. And, we have a lot of resources in old buildings downtown that can be adaptively reused in these ways. We've also done community kitchens, pop-up retail in big old buildings. And so that is a fund for that. And we can also do a lot of entrepreneur training through co-starters and a lot of assessing and planning and helping communities figure out, okay, what do we do next? So that's in our Placemakers Fund. And then we also have that's our rural development site, where we are doing, in addition to Tennessee Main Streets, Tennessee Downtowns, on our 3-star program, we are also doing broadband, which is obviously a huge focus right now, and huge effort to get broadband to every Tennessean from one end to the other. We also manage a lot of federal funds for community development block grants and Appalachian Regional Commission. So just want to let you know, all of that is there, and just really, feeling good about the future of our downtowns and our main streets. I think people are reconnected to them, and oddly, a lot of them, especially in the really smaller communities, have not seen the huge hit to their sales tax revenue, because they're actually getting some of that online money, and they're seeing a huge interest in people living in these communities now, people looking for the safe place. So as hard as this year has been, and as much that has changed, there really are some opportunities kind of buried in there, and we are really looking for those, and we're just going to take advantage of any opportunity to help our main streets and our downtowns.
All right, thank you so much, Nancy. So now I'd like to just kind of turn this over into a conversation. I've got some questions that I'll direct to each of you. And one of the things that Brent talked about in the summit was street closures and turning public spaces into retail and restaurant space. Anthony, did you have any need to expand your outdoor space, or did you have all the space you needed?
Great question. We had the space we needed. Just thankfully, we did have the beer garden. We are looking maybe in the future. It's just brought so many ideas to the table. We have an empty lot next to us, kind of thing. If we can work something out and expanding there at some point. But we're on Trinity. We're not pushed up against the street or anything for that. But there, personally, and from my council side, and just the years of experience there, maybe it's just the Twitterverse, but we're trying to make a big push for like more sidewalk closures downtown, more even lane closures downtown. There, a lot of us on Twitter, a lot of us current former council members, we've been pushing for them to close lanes and really think about this outdoor dining. For now, of course, but for the future as well. And we need to think about getting those cars out of Lower Broad and 2nd Avenue and stuff. So I think it's much more beneficial for them. But then there's little pocket neighborhoods where it's a very relevant conversation as well. So I think that conversation needs to be pushed. The mayor really needs to be looking at it, council, and we need to just look for every opportunity we can. But me personally, we're so far back on Trinity, it wouldn't make any sense for us. But we're making use of every outdoor nook and cranny we have right now.
Do you sense that there will be cooperation on the part of planning and codes and the council?
Yes, I think the government folks are all for it. I do think there's some static maybe from some of the Lower Broad businesses would be my guess. But I don't know why they want all those cars down there. They're just kind of cruising by. But you'd have to do it smart. I mean, there have to be delivery windows during the day where, distributors and food people, everybody can get deliveries in. There is definitely, it's not a simple, snap of the finger, but it can and should be done. And I think we need a little more push and leadership on it. But I think the planners and those kind of folks are all for it, of course.
Dr. Peters, what about Clarksville? You have a great downtown that was rebuilt after the tornado. A lot of businesses that sprung up in that area. Has there been any discussion in the Clarksville area about closing some streets and expanding some corridors for outdoor dining and retail?
The way it's currently set up, there is already areas where outdoor dining will be easier. There are always discussions, as you know, about things like that. But currently, businesses, just like Anthony, they're making use of the space they have, and it's working out.
So what about, I know here in Springfield on our main street, we've had several retailers who have pushed out and made sidewalk sales more permanent than what they would have done in the past. And fortunately, our city codes officials have been lenient about that. They haven't been pushing back on that. Are you seeing that in Clarksville as well?
Yes, a lot of sidewalk sales, if we may put it that way. But also it helps individuals know that they're open. And after the sidewalk sale, you view what's on the rack, you also want to go inside. So that's a good marketing tool too. But I've seen a lot of that.
Right. Nancy, what about at in the Main Street communities you're looking at? Have you seen any communities other than, Tullahoma was a great example, any other communities that are looking at closing streets, looking at opening up sidewalks?
Yes, virtually all of them are going to that model.
Mm-hmm.
It's always hard to close a main street. They're usually a state and or federal highway, but they also have a lot of good alleys and back streets and parking lots and things. So everyone has had to look into that, and seem to be having success with it.
Uh-huh. I know that Nashville has had the days where the parallel parking spots in front of the businesses downtown have been opened up and used, where people have come up with some creative ideas. Anthony, do you have any experience with that, or know of anyone who's been involved in that?
Yeah, I know Walk Bike and gosh, there's so many groups that do that. The sort of the guerrilla public works style, taking up parking spaces. And yeah, there's my sister actually works in the mayor's office for sustainability and transportation, so she's been a part of those. Mary Beth Eichert, and then obviously Nora Kern, her group, and other groups. So those really set the table and can show you what we can do. Yeah, it's just, I think we need to just learn from that. We haven't done the second part, which is just take those ideas and then just do them. That's, it's kind of been going on the last 5 years. I feel like we're doing a lot of the guerrilla stuff and the showcasing what we could do with walkability and eating some of the urban parking and that sort of thing. But we need to just put the pedal to the metal and just do it. And you're going to ruffle a few of those guys' feathers downtown, but we just got to get bold and make some decisions and go for it.
Right. Well, I know here in Robertson County, we've actually had some conversations about the possibility of shutting down parts of the square on a part-time basis. We have our square is very conducive to festivals and events, and we've taken a lot of advantage of it over the years. But there's been some actual discussions about what if we took one section of the square and shut it off to traffic and allowed that to be a public space. I know a lot of our cities, I don't know how Nashville reacted exactly, but I know in Robertson County, a lot of our cities immediately shut down parks. And that created problems as well, because there were children and adults who lived in spaces where they had no access to the outdoors in the early parts of the pandemic. And so that's something that, our streets can kind of substitute for a park if we're allowing that to happen. Nancy, can you talk a little bit more about the Main Street program and how communities can get involved in it? What the criteria are?
Well, sure. So the criteria, and it's a national program that came out of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and it's been going for 40 years. And we've got some towns in Tennessee, like Murfreesboro and Franklin, who have been in it pretty much continuously since then. But that website I showed you, you can apply anytime. And in Tennessee, it all goes through our department, ECD. And we're looking at actually starting an urban program for it too. But for right now, it's we have, obviously, Murfreesboro is a huge town now, 150,000 or whatever population, but we have other communities that are only 1,000 that are in the program. So the model works both ways, but it does require that you have at least a part-time paid professional manager of it. And that's a pretty big hurdle for some communities, we know. And you have to have a collection of historic commercial buildings at least 50 years old, that you have a public-private partnership that's working on just the new use and promoting that as a commercial area again. So those are basically the criteria. We also run the Tennessee Downtowns program for the communities that want to try it with volunteers before they commit to a staff person. And that only runs every couple of years. So we're in the middle of that right now, and we'll open that back up in 2022 when all this is hopefully over. But we've got a really active group of 10 communities in that now. We've had 56 communities go through it previously. And in normal years, we are working on old buildings and doing a lot of preservation stuff. And but now it's, like I said, everything is lighter, faster, cheaper, keep everybody in business, keep the organizations going. So, total change in the event business. And some of the most special events are these like First Fridays, these art crawls, these, walking around. And I think those will continue through the winter. And it feels like a safe thing, one night a month or, one night a week. Everybody, the street is closed. You can go out and walk around safely, distance, and give all these businesses a chance to be out front and continue to bring some revenue in and get through it. And the main streets and the Tennessee downtowns are doing a really good job of just getting those efforts together and promoting them. And I think that's what we'll see a lot of this fall and winter.
Okay. We're starting to get some questions from our audience, and I just remind everybody that if you have a question for one of our panelists or just a general discussion topic that you'd like to have us discuss, go ahead and put that through the Q&A. I'm going to start with you, Nancy. Carol asked if there are some unique ways that Main Street communities are planning to host events. A lot of festivals and other things that have been planned for this year have been canceled. Any innovative ideas for hosting events similar to those you're talking about?
Yeah, like Franklin, Downtown Franklin Association, for example, they would normally have, this huge pumpkin fest, 50,000 people, Dickens of a Christmas, another 50,000 people. So they are doing all month long Paint the Town Orange in October. You can go on their website, williamsonheritage.org, and you can see like every week there's a different focus. 1 week it's the brews and everything, and then and also a lot of really innovative trick or treat things. Like in Lawrenceburg, they are decorating a whole beautiful square. It's like nice photo op Halloween things. And so you drive the kids down, take their picture, and there's treats for them they can safely get, but not the going around to each place getting the treat. Halloween has been a challenge, obviously, because all of these towns do these events with the kids and the trick-or-treating, and we're kind of working through that. Still doing a little bit of the trunk-or-treating kind of thing, the car things, and same questions about Christmas. There won't be a lot of sitting on Santa's lap probably this year, but I think you'll see them all beautifully decorated, and there'll be places where people can drive around. And one thing we do in that Placemakers Fund I was talking about is helping our traditional brick and mortar retailers adjust to more selling online and point of sale equipment and getting all that up and running, and showing them how to market on every social media platform. So we're going to see a ton of that work going into the holiday season.
That's an interesting concept. So it's social distancing is not only by distance, but over time. Spread your festival out over a period of time so that people have a chance to come to it in waves rather than all at once. Dr. Peters, what about your area? What are you seeing? Any big events or community gatherings that are helping these businesses?
Yes, the United Way of Clarksville is presenting Wheels on Reels. So it will be a drive-in movie theater, and that's going to be in November, on November 21st. I just saw the email came through, so that's what I was reading, and that's one of the things that we have coming up. We have not done a lot of outdoor events for a long time, like many individuals. We haven't done a lot of events, so this will be one of the big events that we have coming up.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, are you seeing any sort of merchant organizations like breweries gathering together to do things together in a way, or retailers or restaurants gathering together to do events to promote your businesses?
Well, there's finally talk of the first beer fest I've heard of in basically over a year. with there's an Oktoberfest event coming up. I believe it's on the 9th of October. That's going to be in Richland Park. We're going to be there. There'll probably be about 10 or 12 breweries there. So that, I was kind of surprised it kept going. But, honestly, at a beer fest, you can be safe. I mean, there's drinking going on, so you don't want to get too much close talking happening. But when you're in a park or something, you can just get samples from the brewery and then go spread out, as far as you can go. So as long as people are responsible and respectful, you can pull it off for sure. Because you just get the samples again, wear your mask up to get the sample and then go out. So that's the first one. Actually, another Oktoberfest thing going on is that we're a part of too, is the Bavarian Beer House out at Opry Mills is doing a big Oktoberfest thing too. So they're going to be somewhat outdoors. They're having some indoor stuff too, where you just be more at your table, but they'll have kind of an outdoor event going on as well. So we're looking forward to trying it. Festival season passes by anyway for the most part, so that will hopefully get going in the spring, especially if vaccine or any public health measures are in place. It will be even more exciting, but I think we'll have to be cautious no matter what. And I think to some extent it'll get going in the spring, but it's nice to see a couple of people trying and getting something going. There are less people and just able to spread out outside.
One of the things we talked about earlier was deliveries, and I know Uber Eats and Postmates, and that has been a lifesaver for restaurants. And then, of course, the easing of regulations to allow delivery of alcoholic beverages. I assume that's still going on. That hasn't been rescinded. Yes,
the beer board is letting us keep it going for now. It's going to be hard to put the genie back in the bottle. We're already getting a lot less orders because people are finally going to their liquor store and that sort of thing. But yeah, we've got a couple orders this week, and we're still doing it. So it's nice to keep it going.
Right. Well, I kind of feel like as the weather changes and we are less able to be outside, that those kinds of things may return in level of importance. One of the things about the deliveries, as you mentioned, on Broadway, you're going to have delivery windows. You're going to have the cooperation of the city folks to close parking spaces in front of your businesses. Did you do anything like that during your COVID closures?
We did not. No, we didn't have to do any of that. But yeah, I do think Broadway should do that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I think they're gonna have to figure it out. Yeah, for us, it's just we'll keep the beer delivery going. It's right now for us, it's just kind of a nice perk. But I see it tapering off as people are out and about again. But I think we need to back to like the video you played at the beginning and stuff. I think we need to like learn from the COVID things we learned. I don't have a better way to describe it right now, but I think we need to learn from COVID, move forward with a lot of these measures for urban planning. I mean, it just makes so much sense. And I'd love to see more leadership on that coming from the government. I think it will over time, but this is a great time to do it now that this has happened, and let's get it locked into place now, parking spots and sidewalk dining and all these things you're talking about that would really help Main Street. And if Nashville leads on it, then all your other cities that we're talking about could do it as well. So yeah, I really think we need to make a push right now and make it happen.
So that was one of my questions was, if you, for all three of you, what do you need from elected officials and planning directors and your codes people to help you implement some of these changes now for COVID and in the future? And, I'll go ahead and start with you, Anthony.
Well, in Nashville is always a mayor's office lead. We're a strong mayor system. So, we need all the groups kind of maybe to get together, organize and push for it. I think CRT and Walk Bike and Metro Planning and just everybody, there's a lot of different stakeholders, even the chamber, maybe, although I know they'll get pushback from certain businesses. So sometimes they'll sit on the fence about it, but so we need to be organized, get together, but we do need the mayor's office to ultimately lead on it, I think, in Nashville. And in council, you will be able to pass a little thing here, a little thing there. I remember my successor, Emily Benedict, was working on something. I know Freddie O'Connell's done some things. We can do little stuff around the edges in council, but if the mayor's office could just lead on it and for executively, I think that's the way to go. And that with our strong mayor system, that's pretty much how it has to be. And the best thing the groups can do is get organized, and let's kind of have, if we had sort of a one-page platform of what we want to do with the sidewalk closures, if we just said, this is what we want, let's go for it, I think that would be helpful from the activist end.
Okay. Dr. Peters, what about up in Clarksville? Are you hearing from any of your businesses things that they'd like to see changed as far as planning and from the elected officials to help them?
I think planning, some of the way things are planned, but one of the things I continue to hear about is some more monetary financial support, maybe a revolving loan fund. If something can be implemented, because as we know, a lot of these businesses, without some more support, financial support, they will not succeed. So even if we have something, as Anthony stated, we're learning from COVID, some things that we have in place going forward that businesses can tap into from this point on, not just throughout COVID-19. But that's what I've been hearing. A lot of them need some more monetary support, not just from the federal, not just from the state level, but also locally.
Locally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nancy, what about the state? Do you see ECD coming out with targeting COVID recovery programs that would address some of these issues and which would continue on in the future?
Yes, we are really scrambling to reorganize the resources we have. And the way state funding works is, the General Assembly sets their budget in the spring. And when that happened this year, it appeared, we were in for, no one knew, so some things we normally would be doing now, we are not because of that uncertainty. And like I said, I think now it appears that, that it hasn't been as bad as it could have been financially for state funding. So we are working super hard on next year's budget, and we are welcoming input on where the resources need to be, and really a lot of focus on small business and entrepreneurship and what those people need to recover. I think in the region and really statewide, we have seen a lot of great flexibility among all the local officials. Really, whatever we need to do to get through it. Just in the detail part of it, it's important to remember that beer is completely different from wine and alcohol, and a lot of that when wine and on up is more regulated by the state than the local. And and businesses get in trouble sometimes thinking, oh, it's all the same. If I can do this with my beer garden, you can have wine out there too. And that's not the case. So I think we have to, just be aware of all those issues. It's kind of funny. I mean, that has become part of the pandemic problem is all the alcohol, but it has also been essential to keeping some really important businesses, the restaurants, alive through all this, as Anthony described. So, our department, we call it rural development, but it's a lot more than that. So we are really looking forward to just having a whole new season of assistance available, I hope.
Okay. I guess I will take this opportunity to put in a plug for, you mentioned folks banding together, and I think we see now the importance of working together as a region. We see these issues across the Middle Tennessee area and where businesses need help and how, and the local government can help at some point, but it takes the state and the federal government working together to put the resources in place to make a difference. And so organizations like Cumberland Region Tomorrow, like Leadership Middle Tennessee, like Transit Alliance, that are regionally focused can really help bring these issues to the forefront for what is important, in my work as an economic developer, more and more and more, the companies who are looking to relocate their businesses, it used to be, do you have a piece of land that I can buy cheap, and do you have people that can work here? Now it's about quality of life. It's about communities and livability and what our communities have to offer. And these Main Street businesses that have really blossomed in Middle Tennessee over the last 2 to 3 years are on the edge and at risk. And I think that communities like mine are going to be forever changed if we don't do everything we can to make sure that they survive and grow and come back stronger after this is over with. I think I don't have any other questions from the audience. If anybody has anything, put it in right now real quickly. But let me just go back, and we'll just start back with Anthony. Any last thoughts about this? Please, pitches, anything.
Drink local beer. We need you to keep drinking local beer. Come to East Nashville Beerworks on Trinity. If this tempted you, come try us out. We're in all the package stores, but no, I'd say just stay strong if you're in this industry, if you're in restaurant, you're in hospitality. And if you're not, and you like a lot of restaurants and you like breweries, like come see us in person. A lot of us, we're keeping you safe. You can have your whole experience outside. Come see us in person. And then on the last thing, on the sidewalk and all the Main Street issues, and let's use this moment to push some things forward. I think we really need to be present in the moment we're in and say, all right, all those urban planner dreams, let's push that forward right now and see if we can move some things forward. But most importantly, help us survive over the winter. Please drink our beer, come see us, and support your local breweries and restaurants. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Peters?
Yeah, I'm encouraging businesses to do 3 things, and I always write it down so I remember it. Stay focused, pay attention. Spending habits are changing of your customers, so pay attention to that. And last but not least, stay calm. We'll make it through this together. It will not look the same way it looked from when we started to where we are now. But in the end, again, I have to say that we're making history. We're making a change in the world. And I just want to encourage businesses to just stay strong. We're here to support them in any way we can.
All right. And Nancy?
We all have an individual responsibility to get all these businesses through the winter. So if you live in a community that has a downtown commercial district, really go out of your way. I mean, before you order something else online, is there a way to help them out and for the businesses to help each other out? I see a tremendous amount of that. We're all in it together. If you've got money coming in, how can you use that to help other people in your community and the people who are just right in your community? And I really do have high hopes that our department, and I know all of our mayors in the region are just very attuned to saving their small businesses. Legislators, I think we need to get really good at communicating what do we need exactly, and keeping all these organizations, our collaborative groups like CRT and all the leadership groups, all the chambers. I think they're going to be key to keeping the collective effort together and just make 2021 profitable.
All right, thanks. Yeah, and I'll just add that the collective voice, speaking out to our elected officials and making these issues known to the planning directors in the cities and the counties and your planning commission members. A lot of times we go to City Hall and we pound on a desk at City Hall, but it's those planning commission members that really make those decisions and make sure that they're educated on what our small businesses need going forward. That's a really important thing to do. Well, I thank you all once again. I really appreciate the 3 of you joining us and sharing your viewpoints. I think it's an important topic, and let's hope for a mild winter so everybody can keep staying out on the sidewalks and in the parking lots and wherever they need to be outside and be safe, and hope for a vaccine soon. I want to remind everybody that we do still have one more of these forums, Power of 10 forums, coming up on transit and transportation. Bob Murphy, our board member Bob Murphy from KCI, is planning that. We have a tentative date of October 22nd, but we're waiting on some confirmations of speakers. But please go to cumberlandregiontomorrow.org website, look for us on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter, and you'll see the registration form for that. We feel like these forums have been a real great success. We've had some good feedback from our participants, and we hope to continue to do this beyond the Power of 10 and continue to talk about some issues. We actually have a Nashville elected official that's interested in hosting one of these forums for us. So look forward to that. Keep an eye on our website and our social media. And thank you once again. And thanks to Stage Post for keeping us on track and keeping all our technical issues well taken care of. Thank you all and have a great day.